It was the first day of my freshman year, and I was ecstatic to start high school. I opened the big white doors to what seemed, at the time, the gates to my new bright future. I walked into my all girls Catholic school with the biggest grin on my face. I was finally getting away from those ratchet middle school bullies, but oh boy, were the mean girls in high school so much worse. The moment I walked into the halls, a boy from the all boys school across the way yelled "Ching Chong" directly towards me. Those words hit me like a pound of bricks. Forcing my head down, that big smile faded away in a split sec. I thought that this was maybe just the bad luck of the draw, and that it wouldn't happen to me again. But 2 weeks later, I had my soto ayam leftovers that my oma had made for me the night before, and the girl sitting next to me, who I considered my friend, said, "What the hell is that smell? Get that Chinese shit away from me." What did I do? I got up with my canister of my Indonesian food, mind you, and threw it in the trash. Continuing to be friends with this person, I never brought any Asian dish to school after that. I was used to having the same conversations with people all the time. "So, Sierra, where are you from?" "Oh, I'm from Walnut Creek." "No, I know that's where you live currently, but where are you actually from?" "United States." "I don't think you understand what I'm trying to say. Are you from Japan, Korea, or China?" This part of the conversation I always dreaded, because I knew where part of me was from didn't fit into what they saw as Asia. "I'm mixed. Indonesian, Chinese, and European." Same response, almost every time. "Where's Indonesia? In China?" In all of these instances, I didn't say anything, afraid of being seen as powerful and different. And that's where it began, my journey dealing with racism and inequality in America. Growing up, surrounded by a growing awareness of Asian hate, meant the last thing I wanted to do was be seen as Asian. Therefore, the need to be seen as white started at a very early age for me. Growing up, my favorite movies were the ones with princesses. They were so smart, kind, elegant, and beautiful. I recall sitting in front of the TV admiring three of them: Cinderella, Aurora, and Rapunzel. I had the DVDs on replay, admiring their beautiful blonde hair, blue eyes, and skinny stature. I asked my parents constantly, "Why don't I look like that?" I got the same response almost every time: "Because you were born beautifully just the way you are." I didn't want to hear that though. So when the opportunity came where I could look like those people, I did. I had just turned 5 and my family was going to the happiest place on earth. I got the opportunity to dress up as my favorite princess, and well, you could say I went all out with the blonde look. I would say I looked more like a skunk than a beautiful blonde princess, but besides the point, I was in a fake reality, and I loved it. However, the point I'm trying to get across is that from a young age, all I wanted to do was be seen as white. I was part of the minority, though, but not all of me. Growing up in the United States, the anti-Asian narrative took over my mindset. Being more white consumed my everyday life and mental health. However, when it came time to spending time with family, I always felt like I wasn't white enough when I was around my dad's side of the family, and I wasn't Asian enough when I was around my mom's. One would say common stereotypes about Asian people are that we are all mathematicians who play the violin or piano, thriving to become pure perfections for our strict Asian parents. After school, we go off in a career as a doctor or a lawyer, because those jobs, of course, pay the best and are the hardest to reach. We are seen as smart, kind, well-behaved, and well, now, a virus. Trust me, as a community, the majority of us are smart, well-behaved citizens, but we are definitely not a virus or quiet anymore. By labeling us these things, we are targeted as a community. Therefore, our elders are scared to walk the streets alone. I would like to place out a warning that the following videos and photos I'm about to show you highlight the recent attacks in the Asian community. Viewer discretion is advised. I'm worried to let my 80-year-old Oma walk the streets of San Francisco, where an 84-year-old Thai immigrant was pushed violently to the ground, suffering brain trauma, and dying 2 days later. He was casually going on his morning walk.
Attack. The surveillance video captures the moment of impact. You can see Ratanapakdi in the driveway. A suspect barrels him down and takes off, leaving the victim lifeless on the ground.
Seeing the video is just devastating.
In New York, a woman was punched 125 times in the face, was called an Asian bitch, stomped on 7 times, and then spat on. The person who did this to her was her neighbor, which then left her to die. I'm worried for my mom that she will be pushed into a subway and killed by an oncoming train. This happened to someone 7 months ago. In Atlanta, Georgia, where a man shot up 3 spas, killing 8 people, 6 in which were Asian women. I'm worried I will be told to go back to my country. What do I say to that? Well, ma'am, sir, this is my country.
Oh, you get the out of this world! Get the out of this state! Go back to whatever Asian country you belong in.
I distinctly remember the day that COVID had arrived in the United States. We were told as citizens that the virus was under control and that there was nothing to worry about. But when cases started rising and the death toll adding up rapidly, the president at the time realized that the blame had to be put on someone else other than him and his government. Therefore, he referred to the virus as the plague from China, Kung flu virus, Wuhan virus, and Chinese virus. His response to the backlash of these racially insensitive names was, no, it's not racist at all. It comes from China. I want to be accurate. So, in my everyday life, I mirror my actions to people that I look up to. For example, my mom and my dad. After these comments were made by Donald Trump, hate crimes against Asian Americans skyrocketed in early March of 2020. Trump's own Department of Homeland Security issued a warning that white supremacists may exploit the crisis against Asian Americans. By the leader of the country specifically pointing the blame, calling it a Chinese virus, his followers then mirrored his actions and words. This gave people the permission, in a sense, to attack the Asian community. With COVID hitting communities around the world, people found themselves at home with the fear of getting sick, while I and the majority of the Asian community found ourselves at home with the fear of getting attacked. I always wondered why I never saw any acts of violence or racism towards Asian Americans in the mainstream media. The only time I saw something was when there was sadly a death involved. Why does it take a death or someone to get seriously injured for the major issues of racism and inequality to be talked about in America? No wonder people aren't aware about the major issue of racism against Asian Americans. It's because we're not given the time of day unless someone in our community dies or gets seriously injured. The rise in Asian hate crimes has been seen a lot more over the past 2 years. Just last year alone, hate crimes have risen a skyrocketing 332% in all of the United States. In my home city, San Francisco, police report that there has been a 567% increase in 2021. I had to do some serious digging to find out about what people called not big deal acts of racism or violence. The first act that got media outlets talking was the Atlanta shooting, where sadly 6 Asian women were killed. Seems like the media outlets started talking too late. However, even though racism has been portrayed a lot more over the past 2 years, it doesn't mean it hasn't been happening before. Hate has been happening for decades. Let me take you back. I always wondered how many people knew about the Japanese incarcerated camps from 1942 to 1945. For those of you who are not aware of this important piece of history, it was a policy of the US government that people of Japanese descent would be incarcerated into these camps. Around 120,000 Japanese were forced into these camps regardless of their American citizenships. Next question I had was how many people knew about the Chinese Exclusion Act from 1882 to 1943? The Chinese Exclusion Act was the first and only major law restricting immigration for a specific ethnicity in the United States. This law banned Chinese immigration and prohibited Chinese people from becoming US citizens till 1943. This is just 2 of many dark histories that America has had with treating Asian people as less than humane. Where was this important piece of history in my textbooks in school? Maybe if I would have learned about this my freshman year, I wouldn't have felt like I was the only one dealing with the constant mistreatment because of the way I looked. But I didn't. So I thought it was normal to be treated as less than humane almost every single day. I had gotten so used to this. So therefore, I fell into a very deep depression. Throughout COVID, I was in my darkest times. I would sit in my room in the dark all day, every day, with a constant thought of why I was on this earth. I was ashamed of everything. My eyes, my hair, my nose, my ears, my body, everything. This time alone gave me time to reflect on all of the relationships I had with people, things people had said to me, and the lack of love I had for myself. However, I soon realized I was not alone. To any person who feels less than worthy or different because of your ethnicity, you are not alone. It took me 16 years to find pride in who I am and where I come from. It doesn't matter what box you tick when you identify your ethnicity. Chinese, Indonesian, Japanese, Korean, European, Indian, we are all equal. The first step in learning about culture appropriation, inequality, and racism is to educate yourself. Even though something you might say to your friend or colleague might not sound racist or inappropriate at all, take a step back and put yourself in their shoes. Let's move away from Asian hate and focus on Asian awareness. I feel our responsibility as people who live in Bali, Indonesia, is to be the voice to people that don't have the educational opportunity to experience a true Asian community. Everyone sitting in this room watching me right now is aware of the vastness of the Asian continent. after this presentation, share that knowledge with the world. The continent of Asia is vast, and to any person who made fun of the way I looked or assumed my ethnicity, there are more countries in Asia besides 3. Before moving to Bali 2 years ago, I lived in a microcosmic bubble, focusing on popularity, my grades, becoming a Division I swimmer, and sadly, the most important for me back then was acting and appearing more white. However, I would like to say that I am very blessed to be able to call Bali my second home and Green School my oasis away from the realities of me having to go back to college in America this upcoming fall. To the people who have guided me on this journey, thank you. To be honest, if my wonderful parents didn't encourage me to move to Bali, Indonesia a year and a half ago, I truly don't believe I would have ever found myself or my purpose. Bali, I'm sorry. To have the amazing opportunity to live in Indonesia, which is my mom and Oma's homeland country, means the world to me. It's about time we start loving who we are and unite together to love one another. I'm proud to say now that I do not hide my Soto Ayam leftovers, and I show it now with great pride. Thank you.